Oh man, if you sign up for our Patreon, you can get the rehearsal tapes. Oh, it was a disaster. You know, because, and I'll let JT speak to this because he had a whole other thing with working out all the drum parts with the 3 drummers, but we rehearsed for what, 8 days? 6, 7 days? Something like that. About a week, where we would do 2 songs in the morning, 2 songs in the afternoon, and then learn 2 more songs that night. And then come back and do 6 songs. Then come back and do 8 songs. Then come back and do 10 songs. So there was some stuff.
And then mind you, that schedule, so 2 songs in the first part of the rehearsal, 2 songs at the back end. Rehearsals was usually 10 a.m. to about 8 p.m. So the guys were staying about probably 30 minutes away. But me and Mark, we were driving home every night after that. So that's, we're about an hour from where that rehearsal spot was. So you get home, let's say average everybody around 9 o'clock, 9:30, 10-ish. You still have the 4 tunes you just did that day, and you gotta learn 2 more that night before you get up in the morning and drive to do another 4 songs. That went on for a week. We do this to ourselves every record. Literally, that night while you're, trying to remember what you just did on these 4 songs, those other 2 songs, it's not like they were already there in the Dropbox. Some of them were incomplete. Some of them were coming in midnight, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. Just kept doing that to each other every day. I guess the fun part of that is, you can definitely tell who didn't do their homework the night before. It got real funny, like, you don't want to be that guy, like, gotta go over that part again, because JT's over there folded on the drum beat. Like, come on, guy, what are you doing? So, it kind of made everybody, like, just didn't want to be that dude to show up to the rehearsal and be like, oh man, I just didn't have time, Like, dude, everybody's staying in the same hotel. So, you kind of had to, push yourself really, really hard. So, and especially with the drum parts, I would say the first couple of days of rehearsal was basically just trial and error, more like error and trial. Because you hear the demos, and drummer-wise, we try to, there's certain parts of the demos that we would stick to, and then sometimes whoever the composer was would tell us, like, please ignore it. Sometimes they wouldn't even send it to us. It would just be the track, without the drum beats, and they were like, whatever you're hearing, come with that. But you have other guys like Justin and Mark and Mike that can pretty much, when they write and they send you the demos, it's pretty much a full picture of what they want it to be. So trying to figure that out with 3 drummers and 3 percussion players, it's a whole lot of, you kind of have to just be open and just try any and everything, no matter how ridiculous or how small it may be. You have to go through all those layers so you can find out what's gonna work. Because we have 16 songs to get through. So can't have any egos, can't have, I gotta play that part, I need to play this part. Can't be none of that going on. We don't have time, literally. But nobody even wants to be like that anyway. Like, I don't care if I gotta play triangle or tambourine for a whole song, whatever. If it makes the groove sound good, sign me up. So first couple of days is definitely, exploration of what are we gonna do to try to make these tunes fit, and then, how are we gonna learn this many songs in a week?
So unless I missed something, I didn't see any music stands or iPads or anything.
No.
So it's all here? Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that, they started doing that with, like, Tell Your Friends? Started. Right. Some of that is not, by design, like we're trying to impress you. Some of that is just, there is no
Too much time, yeah.
And sometimes it's easier to just learn repetition. Because, a lot of this stuff, we kind of look at the music like puzzles. So you have this section, you have that section. We'll rehearse that section over and over and over, next section over and over and over. And you just, so it's not as hard as it may seem to memorize that much music, because you just got to think about that. That's all we lived and breathed for 2.5 weeks, for 13, 14, 15 hours a day. So your muscle memory is a lot stronger than you probably think. You just probably ain't ever in a group crazy enough to go, 16 songs in 8 days and record it.
My muscles don't work in 13 days.
Right. Okay. Yo, sure.
Hey, first of all, I think a lot of people here agree. We really appreciate you guys doing an album that gave this community. It's a really, really special thing for people that are from here, and I'm sure you guys feel the same way as y'all from here. So I want to say thanks.
Yeah, thank you, man.
And I wanted to know what came up with the album title and what was the
I think Mike picked the name probably because he was driving past the same exit. There was a time early on in the band when the guys from UNT had gotten started, you know, in 2005, 4, something like that, and they were kind of coming in, driving down to Dallas to go to the gigs and jam sessions and stuff like that. And I think Mike passed that exit a couple, and you know, it's a cool name, right? Most of titling anything in music is like, this sounds cool, let's just probably use it. And so that's where the name came from, was just an exit, yeah, that some of the guys were passing on the way to Denton. But you know, the record was designed to be an homage to the place where we really developed the sound of the band. Sure, there was a period of time where guys moved to New York, whatever. The band sounds like it's from Texas, okay? And that's because of the music that we picked up from here. I'm from California. I went to TCU, Texas Christian in Fort Worth. I immediately got into the gospel scene because that music blew my mind and became a big part of how I express myself as a composer and an artist. I got into Texas blues, I got into Texas rock, I got all these things that were here. And when I started coming to Deep Ellum, for example, playing in these jam sessions with guys like JT and guys like Sean and Bobby and RC and people that were related to Erykah Badu's band, I picked up on all the soul and the R&B that was here. Mm-hmm. And pretty much everybody who went to UNT that was part of that crew was doing the exact same thing. And so that's kind of really how the sound of the band started to develop. If you listen to the first 2 records that the band did and then the 3rd record, which was called Bring Us the Bright, it's like, oh shit, they're actually kind of funky. Because before that, so, and I wasn't even in the band then, so I can say that shit. They can play, but they're not really grooving, you know. So anyway, but JT is from Weatherford, so he grew up with all this kind of stuff. So I don't know, maybe you can. I don't know, dude. It's kind of all your fault why we're funky.
Yeah.
It is not my fault. It's Texas. I mean, it's.
So he's not going to say this, but he was in a band called the RH Factory.
Yes. Yes.
So, and I remember getting a record called Distractions when I think I was in college, and I was like, oh shit, okay, this is how stuff's supposed to sound in a group. And I think League and some of the other guys got the same record and some of the other stuff that the RH Factory was doing. And it turns out he lives here. And he wants to do gigs with us. And so I think probably one of the most educational musical experiences I ever had was playing with JT, Bernard Wright, Bobby Sparks, Keith Anderson, and Chuck Smith, bass player, at this little restaurant in Fort Worth called Ovations.
Yeah.
And we would play every Sunday night, well, almost every Sunday night for months. And I was one of the 3 guitar players that would get called. The other 2 guys were Todd Parsno, phenomenal guitar player, and Alan Cato, another phenomenal guitar player. Guys who were older than me that I got to go watch and kind of study under just by watching them play. And I just remember getting to play with these guys and just getting my fucking ass kicked every night. Every night. And that was sort of the spirit that everybody in Snarky Puppy had early on when we were in our 20s, 22, 23. I was probably 23 when I was doing it. Just like, okay, we just need to get pummeled by music so that we can achieve this sound that we want to have. And then as relationships formed, we ended up having those same guys in our band. Bernard was a big mentor to us, JT is our drummer, right? So it was kind of a really special arrangement of how we all kind of came together. And so it was like, you know what, we need to make a record dedicated to that experience for everybody on both sides.
Yeah.
The teachers and the students.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that pretty much answers that. I can't really add nothing else to that except it's Texas. It's Texas. I don't care where the members of the band from, Spain,
That's true, yeah.
Germany, London, it's Texas. Oh, we don't have anybody from Germany, that's right. Yeah. UK, Spain, Texas. It's just Texas. I don't know any other way to explain that except when you go